Hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the musicians and artists I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Chad Pearman is an American singer and guitarist who is co-founder for Austin-based band Rescue Mission. The band was established in 2005 by Chad and Jason Fenimore and remained active until 2022. Over the years, members have included Chad, Jason, bass and guitar, Brad MacAllister, synthesizer, Brandon O'Leary, guitar, Dustin Payton, guitar, Paul Kemp on drums, Daniel Jones, drums, Gabriel Barrientes on drums, and Greta Garretson on keyboards. Beginning with 2007's self-titled album, the band issued two more releases, Impossible Objects in 2011 and Life Will Out in 2022. There was also an EP in 2010. My guest is currently general manager at Penn Elcom, a world-leading manufacturer for touring flight case materials. Well, welcome, Chad.
Thank you for having me, sir. Appreciate it.
It's nice to be had, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been had a few times. Well, we'll take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
So yeah, I'm actually a Texas native. I was my family is from Austin historically. My mother was born here. My grandmother was born on my mother's side anyway. Oddly, I was born in a town called Port Arthur, which is you're from Texas. I assume you know where that is. It's
Yes, but
not
for viewers that are not, yeah, for
Yeah, it's
viewers that
not the
aren't
most
aware.
desirable part of the state, but it had to do with like most people out there, oil rig, type stuff. So that was the story there. But I moved to Austin when I was 4 years old. Uh,
Oh,
so I consider myself an Austin local for the most part. I've left a few times, and I always end up coming back for one reason or another.
right, right. Coming back home. Well, do you recall your early childhood growing up as far as music in the household?
Definitely. It's funny, and I think about these things sometime. You think about your trajectory with your appreciation for music. How it manifested originally, how it blossomed, where the sort of curves in the road were. I find all that thinking about that stuff pretty fascinating. And I think my first obsession with music, oddly, is I was born in '78, so Star Wars was everywhere, right?
Yeah,
So those John Williams compositions, I mean, sometimes be watching the movie, and I'd almost have to block out the movie and be like, "Man, this work is so outstanding!" Like as a little kid,
right.
I felt that sort of gravitational pull almost, towards the soundtrack. Um, and There was definitely a lot of, listening to music on the weekends, having records playing while, people are doing their own thing. So yeah, a lot of love for music. I would say in my upbringing for sure.
Yeah. Were either one of your parents musical?
I would say my dad was musically inclined, but not musically driven. And then mom just a really big fan. Just really a big part of her life. And I mean that makes up most of the music economy, right? It's like
Yeah, it does.
you need a lot more people who are passionate about music that aren't playing than you need. The audience has got to be bigger than the
Yes, exactly.
than
The
the
ratio there. Yeah,
yeah,
it should be. It should be anyway.
for
Uh,
sure.
well, was the guitar first instrument you learned to play?
Greg, it's interesting. I uh I I consider myself a bit of a, yeah, I know it's a cliche, but like a jack of all trades. But I wouldn't talk about myself as being terribly advanced on any one instrument. I do what I do, and I think I handle that pretty well. But it's nice to be able to sit down with a group and say, guys, I have this idea for a song, and be able to sit behind the kit and say, here's the basic feel. Here's the sticks, you know. But I've played bass in as like higher out type stuff. If people just need a touring bass player or a stand-in bass player while somebody's out, did that quite a bit. So while vocals and guitar is definitely where I've put in the most hours over the years, I absolutely love playing bass. I have so much fun playing bass that I'm ashamed that I never like. Sometimes I'm ashamed I never like locked in into that because it's just it's a euphoric thing. There's something about the low end.
Yeah.
It really resonates with me. And I've got some just real basic movement capabilities on piano and synths, and so the idea is to be able to sit down and at least compose a really decent demo, a really decent idea by yourself, right? And then you bring in your really good musician friends to help you, like,
Tweak it and fill it
yeah,
out. Yeah. Yeah.
make it life, I call it putting flesh on the bones,
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, guitar, definitely definitely where I'm most invested um, in terms of like, really trying to hone my craft and going for very certain sounds. When it comes to guitar playing, I'm a little bit more of there's so many different types of guitar players, you have guitar players who are just very technical that, writing songs isn't really their thing. They're the guy you want to bring in after the song's written to say, hey man, here's your section, here's your, and they're just going to, tear it up. I'm a little bit more of a sound oriented. I'm going for tone. I'm going for the right effect. If you want, something, kind of dirty and overdriven, or if you want something really glassy and pretty with so I focus a lot more on mastering that type of thing than I do like,
Mhm.
um, getting to a point where I feel like, my guitar playing is like on par with like a classical guitar player or a really advanced jazz player or a lot of my favorite guitar players are jazz, like just people I like to listen to are a lot of jazz guys because it gives my brain something to do. It gives it like this activity
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
pop music doesn't really give you. Like pop music, as great as it is, we all love it, right? Like what's coming.
Right. Right.
It's kind of written in the first 3 seconds of the song.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well,
Whereas,
what I was going to say, I think being like a jack of all trades or other trades, with other instruments, it helps you to kind of, pull in what you're looking for, in the arrangements and saying, okay, well, in the drums, I'd like to hear this, the bass, the synths, and the guitar. So you kind of have an idea, more of an idea, for the full sound, what you're looking for, when
yeah,
you've played other instruments as well, So, well, can you remember the first 45 or album that you got?
well, first of all, I'm really glad you're asking about records
Yeah,
because, and I know that we're gonna be pretty relatable in this way, but like records are everything.
yeah,
Like I'm a total record nut. Just got shelves and shelves back here. I love hi-fi. I love great speakers. I love vintage receivers. Like that is the stuff that, um, I consider myself a student of music way more than a player of music. For that very reason. But I want to say the first record I picked up like with my own money. Gosh, that's really good. I want to say it was Cheap Trick live at Budokan was probably it. Um, and I grew up around a lot of kind of harder rock of the 80s. And then eventually at my age got very into a lot of metal, a lot of British metal, a lot of popular American metal at the time. So the first time I heard and saw a video of Iron Maiden, I just lost my mind. I just said, this is the coolest thing I will ever see in my life.
It's interesting before the
Yeah.
connections and the threads doing these interviews. I just talked to Bruce Dickinson, not the Iron Maiden Bruce, but the Pop Poppins, who
Yeah,
was a lead singer. Yeah, and of course he changed his spelling to Broose.
of
Uh,
course.
and so that's very interesting. That was just my latest interview. Now you're talking about Iron Maiden. So
A small world situation, right?
right, yes, it is.
Yeah, it was that was I would say that was the first time I started getting interested in like what the musicians were doing, where I would like watch them play and be like, man, how does he get that sound on the bass? How, all these things were really intriguing to me. And through the course of that, got into a lot of other, you got really into Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and then, you crossed over to America, really enjoyed the, early Metallica records and Megadeth records and all of that stuff. And one of the guys that you mentioned in the introduction, Dustin Payton, I actually met him in the seventh grade. He actually started Rescue Mission with me. It started as a project that he and I had come up with, but not to derail. So way back in those days, Dustin was very interested in guitar, and his dad had bought him like a just a kind of lower end Strat and a cheap amp. And his dad knew a few chords and taught him a few, and he ended up creating a Frankenstein. And Dustin, still to this day is a masterful musician and songwriter. And but back in seventh grade, we hadn't developed those kind of stuff, but he was still really good at guitar. So he became motivated. He saw how into the music I was, and he literally taught me to play guitar. Taught me what he knew, so I could learn these rhythm parts. So of course he could, you know,
Right.
jump in there and do his leads. So that's kind of where it all started.
Okay, that's where the seeds were, right there, the
Yeah,
genesis of that. Okay.
absolutely. And then as we got, through high school, through college age, around that time, our desire for wanting to like make records and produce material, having song ideas really started to develop very quickly, and so did our listening habits. Okay, so out of nowhere, and looking back, it almost seems like overnight. We went from listening to Slayer to REM and the
Yeah.
Smiths. And it's like that's a pretty big jump. But there was we were very drawn into that kind of British post-punk, murky, gloomy. Um, we loved the guitar work. We loved the production of it because it was so different than what we were used to. Like all the echo on these recordings and all the ambiance and cool microphone tricks that may not have been so conventional in music that I had been exposed to up to that point. But I mean, we ended up with a copy of Echo and the Bunnymen's Heaven Up Here, and I swear to you, that was like uh, it was like it was like going to church. I mean, it was just
Right.
it just
It
completely reshaped.
it it talked to you, it ministered to you. Yeah, exactly. I remember picking up that my favorite track off of there is still All My Colors.
That's a good one.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah. And
But just
I've always been drawn to the darker side. And, like, even for me, overcast days really, I get into those. A lot of people say it's too gloomy and
right.
stuff. I prefer autumn and winter anyway, but just that imagery on that album, with the dark skies and they're on the beach there, yeah, really, really touched me, moved me.
Yeah,
So,
definitely same here. Yeah, getting into those guys was really huge. And that just opened a door to so much amazing music. I started working in a music store in high school, and I was a record jockey all the way up to 2012.
Oh, it wasn't Waterloo by chance, was it?
I have worked at Waterloo.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah. And so being in Austin and being around working in record stores, working at Waterloo, working at several record stores around town would put you right at the heartbeat of what was going on. And bands like The Cure and Joy Division and Echo and the Bunnymen and the Smiths were kind of like that door opening to it's just such a massive patchwork of great records and great bands from the same time period. From The Fall to Gang of Four to Susie the Banshees, the Chameleons,
Chameleon. Yeah.
you
I
know.
don't want to go too off on too much of a tangent, but Chameleons are my favorite band from the 80s.
Wow.
Bar none. I mean, to me, heads and tails above anything else. But I know reading an interview online with you that you were heavily influenced by the Chameleons, and you've also toured with them, with Mark and with
Yeah.
Birdie, and also with Black Swan Lane.
Yep.
Uh, and I wanted to check and see if it was the same time or the same tour because me and my brother drove out to Atlanta to see Mark with Black Swan Lane. Did you open that time, or was that a different time?
I'd probably have to like drill down the date because one thing to know about the Atlanta Mark Burgess connection is that uh, Black Swan Lane is from the area,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so there've been several shows with Black Swan Lane and whatever group of musicians that Mark might have been playing with at that time. But we did a tour with Mark Burgess and a drummer named Akeem Ferber and a guy named Eve Altana,
People
who I
tend,
know from Paradigming and various other projects.
right, right.
So we did a US, like a 3-week US tour
Okay.
with that group.
Yeah,
Obviously, life-changing experience. Arguably one of the coolest things I'll ever get to do.
yeah,
Uh, and then quite a few years later, I want to say probably 3 years later, we did, I wouldn't call it a tour, but we did a stint of shows with the newly formed Chameleons and Black Swan Lane. Um, so yeah, I'd have to like look back at my notes to know if we did that exact show. Uh,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I was trying to get because me and my brother, I helped. He's a few years younger than me. I helped turn him on to the Chameleons, but we've seen them what about 5 times now, Mark and or the Chameleons. But the first time was 2000, so that's 25 years ago. I never thought he would come here or the band would come here because they hadn't. They went to New York, L.A., the typical spots, but not here. So they were playing there. It was kind of like a farewell show, with
yeah.
the original members. So, well, let's go. So we flew to Manchester, saw them at the Witchwood.
Mm.
I remember the venue, and got to talk to him after the show. And anyway, we thought we'll never see them again, so let's go. Come to find out, I've seen them like 4 times since. It's so funny how things like that work out. But
Yeah.
the other one was down with Birdie, with Eve Altana,
Wow.
on Lower Greenville. So
Mm.
maybe you opened. I don't remember for that show, but we saw.
Played the Cavern Club with Bird. Uh,
Okay, okay,
this would have been, gosh, I want to say 2007 is when this
okay,
was.
okay. All right.
Uh, and yeah, so we were, just traveling by bus, all of Rescue Mission, the lineup at the time, and those three guys. It was pretty wild because we didn't have much in the way of touring experience at the time. And of course, all of them had a lot. So it's definitely mind your P's and Q's and everybody
Right,
behave. You know,
right, right. Well,
don't don't make an ass of us. But
right. Well, I don't want to make it all about chameleons because I mean I'm sure we could both go on and on. But a couple of other things you mentioned, Invincible. with Mark and Eve.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's going to happen. It's just, God, I love that track. And then only you can save me off of that album. But then it's interesting that you guys in your set would end with a cover of View from a Hill.
Yeah.
And I think that may be my all-time favorite Chameleons track. Yeah, that one. Second Skin or that one. They kind of go back and forth.
Those are real guy. I gotta throw Perfume Garden in there, but
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think the second album gets as much credit as it should. There's great songs all throughout that album as well.
yeah, I love it. I mean, the first three records, obviously are just forever imprinted on me. Very lucky to have been turned on to them, and really lucky to know Mark. He has stayed in my home with me several times, and he's come through and done a few acoustic shows over the years. He was actually living in Texas for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
period.
He was up in Arlington. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where he.
so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
made it easier to connect than it is now. But obviously, Mark's put a really amazing group of guys together for this current incarnation, and they've put out a new record. And man, I just couldn't be more proud of them. I mean, they just came through on tour with Psychedelic Furs, and
Like Elk Furs, yeah. My brother got to see him. I didn't. It was a Monday night, so I didn't go. But yeah,
everybody
it's
felt them
right, right, right.
in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't be more proud of those guys.
Oh yeah, and the legacy that they've left, and
When we found out that the tour was secure, that we were doing this tour with Bird. First off, the Invincible record, they played almost the whole thing, the whole night, because obviously that's very Mark and Eve centric.
oh yeah,
They wrote those songs together, and obviously they threw in some Chameleon stuff because you almost kind of have to, and there was some other bits from Sons of God and so on and so forth. But yeah, it was a really good time. So glad I got to do that.
yeah, yes. Speaking of Eve again, I recently talked to Patrick Fitzgerald.
Hmm.
You may know him from Kitchens of Distinction.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And he's been in two or three bands since that. He has his own band, but he was in one
Oscar Strom, I believe.
with yes, with Oscar's drum. Yeah, with Eve. Yeah, exactly. So there's another connection there. So the more of these I do, the more I find.
Yeah,
Well,
Eve
look,
actually
go ahead.
produced our second record. Like
Yeah,
mixed it and took
yes,
pretty
he
good.
did.
Yeah, we were really, really, really happy with what he did for us. Probably the single most like talent in one human being I've ever been like in close quarters with, where it's just like, man, you gotta stop it, man. Like,
I did.
uh,
I did. I did a written interview with him many years ago before I
uh,
started doing these. But yeah, very nice guy, very nice. Well, I'm going to rein myself back in here, get refocused on Rescue Mission. Talk about how you guys got together and the other members' influences, their musical influences.
yeah, so it was 2005 when the guy mentioned Dustin Payton, the co-founder. He was living in Chicago at the time, and he was expressing some interest in coming back down to Austin and getting back, in the scene. And he started kind of writing some demos and sending me copies of them, and I really liked where it was going, and I was very encouraging of it. I was in a couple of groups, but nothing that was like mine. It was just like other people's groups I was playing with at the time. And so we just said, man, what do we got to lose? So we moved Dustin back down to Austin, and we just went out in the studio and just started cutting what we could, but also auditioning people that would want to do shows. And um, I was able to talk my drummer from a prior band, a guy named Paul Kemp. He really enjoyed the demos. He's like, tell me when, tell me where, I'll be there.
Right.
And we had auditioned a handful of bass players. Some we played with for a little longer than others. And then we focused in on Jason Fenimore, who I played with in a prior group. And he immediately just walked in and just ironed everything out like so perfectly, where Dustin and I are just looking at each other like, wow,
Right.
okay, all right, let's get serious now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once we had Paul and Jason on, we were operating as a functional four piece, and we went and made our first record. It was around that time that we started talking to Mark, and it's a whole different conversation. But the coolest thing I think that I have to really like talk about or convey in terms of like content that I think is unique and special is the time period that was 2005 in Austin, Texas, because for me it marks a really substantial point. And everybody talks about live music capital, and Texas blues and things like that are probably the most hyper focused aspects of that fandom. And for good
Sure.
reason. I mean, we do that stuff right for sure. But at that time, 2005, the amount of the quantity of just like really good bands were everywhere. I mean, you could literally go downtown every single night and see a band that you've never heard of that blew your hair back.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was special.
Right.
It was a very amazing time to be in an up and coming band.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a very distinct culture of bands really helping each other out.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna put you on a show with us. You put us on a show with you. Hey, we're gonna go play in New Orleans. Oh, well, hey, we're gonna go play in uh, in California. Do you want to go with, there was a lot of you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of thing going on. And, not to mention the bands that were coming out at the time, or the bands that were really popular at the time, from Spoon, Black Angels, Trail of Dead, Explosions in the Sky, like all of this very intense stuff is happening at the same time. And, that was my whole favorite thing about it. Because, when we started playing shows, um, immediately we had a crowd. Like, just so we didn't have to hustle or work for it. And it's not like we were doing anything that was deserving of that, because there were tons of great bands within a stone's throw. It's just because you had a lot of hungry music people that wanted to consume and see what was going on, and a lot of people coming into town. Um, Austin is not that anymore, and we don't have to descend into all, because it's not just Austin. It's a lot of places that the local music scene or the culture of it has seen a bit of a decline. But it was a really spectacular time, just to in any way be involved and like kind of feel those vibrations as you book shows and make records. And it's a very vibrant time. I'm very, very fond of that time period, about 20 years
Right.
ago.
Right, right. Well, it's nice that it's kind of a communal effort, like you said, with other bands. You're all helping each other out.
Yeah.
And that was a nice thing. With up and coming bands, there's not a lot of ego to deal with. It's like, well, if I help you, then, you're not gonna, pass me, into that kind of crap. So it was, all help. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, down on 6th Street, I guess it's not as happening as it once was, but I guess South by Southwest, I've heard things about it. It's not what it used to be as well. But yeah, did you ever play? Have you played South by Southwest?
Oh yeah. In fact, we did with Bird that I guess it was 2007.
Yeah,
We did that. We were on a showcase with them,
yeah,
actually, and that was the first date of our tour. Like, we played Dallas the next night, Chicago the next, so on and so forth up towards the East Coast. Yeah, there was a very clear, and it happened rather quickly by my memory, of just like this sort of surgical. change in the downtown Austin culture because all of a sudden, um, the demographic just changed. I think things got a lot more expensive here, which pushed a lot of people out. A lot more affluent people started moving in, and a lot of high-rise condos go up. And that demographic, they're way more into their wine and cheese artisan shops than they are a bar where you can go hear a cool band and have a beer or whatever. It's just the way it is. So it's almost like a little bit of culture warfare in a sense, where it was just like a the old ways are being replaced with this new feel to downtown, and what that was replaced with was an onslaught of festivals, right?
Yeah.
So South by being one of them, obviously. Then you have ACL, and back at
Yeah.
this time you had Fun Fest, Psych Fest. So essentially, the whole live music scene just got transformed into a festival scene, right? And you'd see a lot of places closing down. And there was just a very big shift in how likely you were to, be in a really, healthy environment for a band. Really changed, I would say, probably, 5 years out of like 2010, and definitely
Right.
by 2015, it was getting pretty rough.
Right. And then of course with COVID, that had a big, massive impact.
For
And
sure.
talking to a lot of UK musicians, they echo the same sentiments as well over there.
Yep.
Things shutting down. Well, where'd the name come from? Rescue Mission.
I wish I had a cool answer for that. I think, I will tell you, it's so simple and it's not creative or imaginative at all, but we had four or five names floating around, and we're kind of batting them back and forth at each other. And then I just start like picking up records, looking at artwork, looking at song titles, like, just for any inspiration. And I ended up with a copy of Ocean Rain in my
Oh,
hand.
all
And
right.
they're in the boat, and I'm looking at it, and I'm talking to Dustin about it. And it's like, it looks like they're searching for someone who's maybe, gone beneath the surface. It's a bit of a rescue mission of sorts, and it just kind of rolled off, and it just kind of worked. Um, so that, yeah, it just kind of stuck, and we just moved forward with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fascinating to me to hear the origins of the band's names. Where they come like that, or in a dream, or
Yeah.
where they come from. It's always interesting. Well, how did the general sound come together? Was it music first and then lyrics, or vice versa?
Yeah, we're definitely so the way it started was a little bit different than the way it ended up. So on our first record, I would say that Dustin would be considered like the principal songwriter. Okay, so he would basically write demos, guitar, bass, drums, synth, and start throwing demos at me, to come up with ideas for lyrics and also vocal melodies and parts and what have you. And we sort of began a process of me saying, okay, I really, really like these. I've already got ideas for these. Like, let's jump into them. These over here, I may need no, more time with. These over here, you know, sort of thing. And that worked pretty well. And so that was kind of the formula for the first record. And then Dustin left after the first record,
Okay.
and Jason Fenimore sort of moved into that, my kind of partner in crime, uh,
Let,
sort of sort of arrangement.
let me mention off of that a couple. I may have already emailed you or messaged you, or I don't remember if it was you or Brandon.
Hmm.
A couple of my favorite tracks off the first one:
Okay.
Descent, and Conversion. Those are my top picks.
Yeah, those are definitely Dustin songs.
Okay, they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and After Dustin left, there were a few drummer change outs, but we actually changed up our formula quite considerably. So the writers of the group for the second and third record were myself, Jason Fenimore, and Brandon O'Leary. So every song was either a Chad song, a Jason song, or a Brandon song, and we had our own kind of idea of how we wanted it to be arranged, what type of instrumentation, what type of effects used. And some would be more open to interpretation than others, right? And so what we would do is just sort of, play musical chairs and go from member to member. And the other two who were not the songwriter would really assist in fleshing out the song. So it became like a truly collaborative exchange between three guys, and that worked really well for those last two records. Some of my favorite songs are not the ones that I wrote, uh,
Okay.
and I mean I like playing the ones that I did, but
Yeah.
it just became a much more like when
Yeah.
you do things that way, it really helps people put a lot of heart into it when they're more involved in the songwriting process as opposed to just handing people their parts. Here you go, that sort of
You
thing.
know, you interesting. The band's sound. I'm sure. I mean, if I didn't know you guys were from Austin, I would say you're a UK band.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you've heard that before. But another one that you mentioned earlier, "Explosions in the Sky." Another one. That doesn't sound native at all. But the I wanted to mention, see, get your recollections maybe, or history or story behind the EP, the 2000 EP with three tracks off of that. I like all three of them. It Just Happened, which would appear on the following album. I think that could be a single. Yeah.
yeah, we pressed that for promotional purposes, and we really started just by handing it out. And then eventually the demand for it grew, and we put some into stores, and had some reasonable distribution of them. But yeah, it was really a promotional effort more than a release, really. Because the songs do end up on the following record. And then we did we played a lot of shows to support that second record. Uh, Jason Fenimore is quite the copious note taker, so he's got every show, every played with.
Does
Uh,
he?
he was running sound,
Where all did you play? Did you play outside Austin, and where all did you play?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
So one cool thing that we got to do, aside from our connection to Mark Burgess, Chameleons, is we developed a cool relationship with a band from New Orleans who went under the name The Public at the time. And they were in the same vein, definitely dark, eerie, raincoat rock, as I call it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we paired well together. All the guys liked each other. We all, just had a blast and, you know, got drunk and just had a really good time just being young dudes and in bands, But it was one of those like really mutually beneficial things because they had a really nice local following and nobody in New Orleans knew who we were. And then vice versa, maybe not to the same extreme, but so it became they would come here, we would go there. So we did a lot of shows with those guys. But at the time, like playing regionally was very common. So going to San Antonio, going to Houston, going to Dallas was as common as anything we would do. But as I'm sure you know, and I'm sure all the musicians you've talked to, I'm sure you've heard this echoed through the halls many times. But especially in Texas, when you consider the landmass, touring gets very expensive,
Yeah.
as opposed to if you're in Europe or you're just trying to play a bunch of shows in the UK, like,
Right. Right. I
that's
tell
not,
this story over and over, but I didn't know until just a few months ago the size of Texas, that it's larger than the UK.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I knew it was big because I've lived here my whole life too, but
Right.
it was like, wow. I mean, that
Yeah.
really puts it in perspective. But
Yeah. So to go out,
yeah,
for a band at our sort of resource level, it was either you could go west or you could go east. You couldn't really knock all of that out in one stretch.
yeah,
So there'd be times that there'd be focus on different regions, but definitely most of our shows in Austin. I mean, we're all still working class guys. We've all held 9 to 5s throughout most of this.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I worked in a record store for a lot of the rescue mission tenure. And when you work in a record store, I think it's kind of expected that one of the guys is gonna be like, "Hey, I gotta go to tour.
Right.
You mind giving me 2 weeks off? And
Right.
I don't expect to get paid, and I'll be back, but
Right. That's written into it.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
it's
like,
like the hidden clause.
it's a clause in there. Yeah.
And it
Well,
was funny. There was a lot of other musicians I worked with too, and we'd all have to kind of like talk to each other and be like, "Okay, so when are you going on tour? When are you?" Uh, we couldn't
coordinate.
be
Yeah.
the record store with no staff.
Right. Right. Well, a couple of things that come to mind. You mentioned New Orleans a couple of times. Do you remember the Red Rockers?
The Red Rockers.
Yeah,
No.
the song China, it got played on radio quite a bit. In the vein of REM, kind of the
Okay.
jangly guitar, mid
Okay.
80s. I just talked to John Griffith. Well, he was also probably more well known for Cowboy Mouth. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, later on, but just talked to him recently. And then another band, I don't know if you're aware of Dear Darkhead. Have you ever heard of Dear Darkhead?
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Okay, well, they're in the same vein, kind of
Jotting things down though, I'll tell you that.
dark, atmospheric, uh, dream pop, kind of shoegazy. I talked to one of the guys from New Jersey band, but
Hmm.
they were heavily into the influenced by the Chameleons as well. But
Okay.
so anyway, uh, back to what we were. I wanted to mention again from that EP. I like the keyboards on "Get the Effect." Uh,
Oh yeah.
that's a nice touch
Yeah,
on
it's
that one.
it's got a kind of poppy, memorable, lead part to it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All your tracks, there's enough variety in them that they don't none of them sound the same. So that's always a good plus. And then the best year lately,
Mm.
I hear, and maybe in some of your other vocals and other tracks, I hear little Adrian Borland in your
Uh,
vocals. You you
yeah.
know you know who I'm talking about from the
Oh,
sound.
oh,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yes, yes. I hear a little bit of that. Uh,
Yeah, definitely a big influence. And on that song in particular, I hear just a slight bit of the church in that song. When I listen, go back and listen to it.
yeah, yeah,
It's really funny. The drummer from our first record, Paul Kemp, he was actually just in town recently, visiting his family for Thanksgiving, and I hadn't seen him in, gosh, probably 7 or 8 years. And he came over and got behind the kit, and we went. I had to be like, "Oh shit, can I remember this?" We worked through it, but it was
yeah,
wild. Talk
yeah.
about walking through a time tunnel. It was
Right, right. Just like getting back on the bicycle, like they say, yeah, 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 picking up from yesterday.
it
Yeah,
was it
that's
was wild. It was cool. I would do it again. I would do it
yeah.
again, Paul.
If you're listening, Paul. Yeah, a lot of these bands, I talked to that maybe they were, not doing anything for decades, and then they reform. And then I asked them, what was it like? Were there, some rusty moments? Did some of them say, yeah, we had to rehone our chops, kind of get more familiar again, refamiliarize ourselves. But others say, yeah, just like getting back on the bike. So,
Yeah.
you've been with guys for that long, I can hear that. I can hear that. Well, you did mention Eve would co-produce and mix the second album, Impossible Objects, from 2011. First off, I got to say I really like the cover with the rain-soaked window.
No,
What's
thanks.
what's the building in the background?
Um, you know, I I'm having to really dig back into my memory banks
Oh,
on, but that was a photo that I really think one of the girlfriends at the time of the band took and just edited and
yeah,
played with the blurriness and the contrast to like get a kind of creepy look to it. And yeah, it was one of those things that as soon as everybody saw it, like that's it. We're using that. Oh,
yeah,
I hear
yeah,
anything else? No, 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 no. We're doing it, you know. Um, yeah, so that was cool. Yeah, I really depend on the people around me. I think a lot for the visual art, things like that. I like really simple stuff. I like a lot of the like Seville record covers, like the
yeah,
newer albums, and I like just real like sterile and just clean imagery. And I don't know how to like do that in a creative way. So I just have people around me that I think have good taste just keep throwing stuff at me until I'm like, that's it.
right, right. Well,
Uh,
I like that. I
so
mean, I don't
I
like,
take
I don't
no
like,
credit for any of that.
right. I don't like the ones where, they've got to plaster the band's pictures on every cover, I mean, where's the mystery in that? I like the ones, like you said, that are more, just imagery, that's evocative of the sound, more than, I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
One of my favorite album covers is The Cure 17 Seconds.
right,
And what
right,
is it?
right,
It's it looks like an accidental photo. You know,
right. Yeah,
it's like completely natural and unintentional. And that's what I
right.
like about it. You
Yeah,
know, it's just some blurry trees.
yeah,
That's all
exactly.
it is. And there's no leaves on them. That's it.
Right,
You
right.
know,
It was. That was one of the first 12 inches I ever got was, you know, the forest, you
forest.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I played that like there was no tomorrow. Wow. Well, off of that, of course, there's the aforementioned It Just Happened. Uh, but then On Your Leaving, great echoey vocals on that one. And I like a more melancholy mood on that track. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that one turned out really good. That's a Jason Fenimore song, and yeah, I want to say I had to really put in considerably more effort into that one than most of the other songs on the record, because that was definitely one of those that like when the vocals came back in the mixing room, I was just distraught, did not like the way it sounded, and yeah. I don't want to even think about how much money we spent in terms of studio time,
Oh,
uh, like tweaking and going over that one. But I have a bit of a curse where I find myself just being really dissatisfied with mixes that are coming out. And I've just learned that like you do get to a point where you get tunnel vision and your ears aren't really the ones that you should trust, which is a
yeah,
really hard thing to because they're your ears, you know.
yeah,
But it's just like having a fresh set of eyes, look at something from someone who's just been going, 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 going. Sometimes that fresh set of ears can be just what you need.
yeah,
And as long as you're surrounded by people who are cool with being objective and saying, man,
yeah,
no, we got to get you back in the booth. It's not working. We got, yeah, I'll take that all day. Um, so it's having that help has always been really beneficial with getting you
yeah.
know, the
Being open to criticism, you're right. You really have to be. Yeah. And know that they're there, for your benefit, as well as the band, will they want to improve the sound and the overall product. Well, High as the Sun, I think that's just a great all around track. I really like that one.
Yeah, that one is really kind of that's a Brandon song, and that one definitely comes out of the whole not to say that it's, just, immediately pulled from it, but definitely inspired by like UK shoegaze, Slow Dive, My Bloody Valentine,
Yes, yes.
stuff like that, which is a big thing for Brandon. Like Slow Dive's his favorite.
Low dive for me as well. Yeah, yeah,
So, and we all like, Jason and I like that stuff too. So it was a welcome uh, that the whole wall of sound bit was something that we enjoyed experimenting with for sure. Yeah, and it came out good on that song.
Right, right. And then earlier on with Jesus and Mary Chain, their sound, I think it was instrumental in a lot of that shoegaze coming later. Wow.
Yeah, JNMC was a huge influence on me.
Yeah.
When I got my hands on Psycho Candy, I mean it was in the same ballpark as when I talked to you about Heaven Up Here earlier. It was just like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, there's no way this is this good. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, how did I not know this?
Right.
Uh, but I
Right.
find so much pleasure in those kind of like gobsmacks, like
Yeah.
getting introduced to a new band or a record you may not have known about or
Right. I get that over the years, well, how did I not know about this band before? They flew under my radar anyway, but once you do, it's like, wow. Yeah. And then another matter, great mellow guitar, I'll love you from a hill, little bit. That,
yeah, I've never thought that, but I could see it. Yeah. Yeah, that had been one that was kind of left over from the prior sessions. So we I think we started with that one. We went into the studio for it, and yeah, I'll tell you the real saving grace for that whole record is what Eve did to the mix and the mastering that Kramer did for it just made it like I didn't even think it was us when we got it back. It's like this is a forgery. Yeah, we
yeah.
were pretty excited.
Who's been impersonating us? Yeah, right, right. Well, you can hear it. You can hear it in the production, definitely on that one. But then, why was there so long in between that album and then Life Will Out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there was a huge period of time where I think, just speaking for myself, that just kind of getting situated in life, like career wise, home life, all of that, just kind of, really, you get a little older. Let's face it, you get a little older, you got to start taking shit more seriously. You can't devote as much time to it. While we stayed active, there were a lot of personnel changes in that time period that amounted to some pretty serious setbacks in terms of being able to get into a studio. So what would kind of occur is like we would stay active and we would stay playing. We would play a lot of new songs. We were playing songs from Life Will Out, 3 years before the record came out. And but it was just the trouble of getting everyone together, getting everyone on the same schedule, getting everybody coordinated. It just seemed like the stars were just not lined up to make this happen for us. In terms of being able to, put out material more because it certainly wasn't an issue of not wanting to do it or not being able to do it in terms of like having material or ideas or creative flow or a good arrangement between the members. It was literally just that, life happens stuff that
Yeah.
I think everybody had going on to a certain degree. And so for Life Will Out, we knew it was going to be our last record when we started it. Just
All right.
because again, we're getting a little bit older and we're having to focus on other things. And the idea at that time was, Jason and I would maintain some exchange with each other and writing sessions and that's happened to some degree. Not as much here and lately, but yeah, the short answer that was the very long answer. The short answer is just very difficult to get things lined up properly. Because yeah, I mean, if I would have had it my way, we would have done 5 or 6 records. And that is the difference between, a band that can just focus on music and a band that also have to, hold down their 9 to 5 and, you know.
Yes. I've definitely heard that story told. Yes, yes, yes. Well, I'm glad you did release the third album because I think that's my favorite.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
uh, yeah, I like the melancholy feel of Divine Deviant. And let me ask you, are you a Dead Can Dance fan?
Oh, of course.
I hear Brendan Perry in your vocals on that one.
Okay.
Go
Uh,
back and listen. Yeah, not that you were trying to, but I hear
no,
that.
that's a huge compliment and a great observation. Jason brought that one in
Yeah,
and just kind of let me do my own thing up to a certain point. It took a little while to get it ironed out. Um, but yeah, I think that's my favorite track
yeah,
on that record. Yeah.
yeah. It's really nice, nice. The same space continues the mood. I like the guitar and the synth on that track,
Yeah.
and then I like the synthesizer again and just a blur as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use just enough. Just not overused, but just enough to give it.
Yeah, I do. That was one of Just a Blur is one of mine, and I was God, that song. I've got recorded. There's 5 different versions of that song. It took me a while to get a final arrangement and way I wanted to do it. But yeah, it came out in the mix pretty okay, I think.
I think so. I think so. Well, Detached and Wayward, a little harder guitar on that one, but I like it.
Yeah, that was the angry song on the record.
Yeah, yeah. Take it out on the guitar,
That
right?
was that was the that was
Yeah,
uh, yeah the moody tantrum of the record.
right. uh, you're relegated to one an album. There you go.
Well,
Well,
that's cool for you to to listen to it and give it an overview.
yeah, yeah. I like to do that. I like to do that. There's some artists I talked to that had 30 albums. It's like, I can't go into every album, but I'll try to highlight. But
I was gonna
you know,
say
you
in this case, it's probably good that we only did 3 records.
yeah, right, right. Exactly. I can't delve too deep on those. But you mentioned earlier the shoegaze. I like the shoegaze feel of Undarkest Hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely in there too. Yeah, there's this like I feel like where things kind of ended up and they're subtle and you almost kind of have to listen to them, but there's like almost like you talk about just like ingredients in a bowl. You've got that like post-punk kind of driving rhythm stuff. You've got the shoegaze kind of wall of sound stuff. And Jason as a composer he's very locked into like soul and Motown.
All right.
Not in terms of how the production sounds, but using a lot of the same like plays like from that playbook in terms of arrangements and just coordinating the song like putting the puzzle pieces together. So I hear quite a bit of that when I go back and listen to stuff. And it makes for a pretty cool trio of those. It's like the trifecta.
There you go. Yeah. Well, one last track I enjoy is Panning for Gold. Nice instrumental. The keyboards in that one remind me of Sad Lovers and Giants. Is that
uh,
another band
oh
that
yeah.
you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Got their records back here too, for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah,
we have
go
a lot in common in terms of bands we like. And I can tell you're a huge music scholar and fan. So I think that's very cool.
yeah, yeah. That dark, post-punk, music from the '80s, and you may not remember. Well, I don't know. Is he still around? George Gamark? Do you remember George? He was here in Dallas. Well, you probably wouldn't know him down there, but he was on what was it? What radio station? Anyway, he started the rock and roll alternative probably around 82, 83.
Okay.
83 is when I started listening. And I picked up on, he played so much import music on that show. It was on Sunday nights. And I
Okay.
would sit there with my cassette deck and I would have it ready, to record,
Of course.
the songs that I liked,
Of That's
like
cool.
that. So I picked up on a lot of that music that he would play, you know,
Yeah.
on that at that time. Wow.
Yeah, those end
All
up
right.
being really important figures, those few
Yeah.
people you can go back and say, oh man, that I wouldn't know
Yeah.
about this if it weren't for that. But I
Yeah.
do that a lot actually. I've had a lot of great teachers and gotten a lot of good guidance from some pretty brilliant people
Yeah.
on great records. So
Right. Right. If it hadn't been for him, I don't know where. I guess eventually I would pick up on the music, but I don't. Not at that time anyway. Not
right,
around here. Nobody was playing that kind of music. Uh,
right.
well, you DJ'd for years. So was it on radio or clubs?
Um, Me in particular?
Yes.
Oh no, yeah, I didn't do any DJing so much. I just worked in I was basically a vinyl appraiser
Oh,
uh,
okay.
for a good number of years. So I was the guy that would either come into your house because you were, not because you didn't want me to, but like if if there's an estate sale or if somebody
Oh,
wants
oh,
some
oh, how
records.
much their value? Okay,
So
okay.
I'd be the guy that would do, or you could bring them into the shop, either way. But yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have
Oh,
DJed as much as I love
well,
records.
that must have been a misprint that I read then that said something about DJing. So
Oh no, that's okay.
anyway, yeah.
But yeah, just hugely into records either way, though. Yeah, that's the
Oh, okay. I DJ'd 86 at a dance club in San Antonio. It was
okay.
Phases. I don't know if I'm sure they're defunct by now, but yeah, for a few months there. So
Okay.
that was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Probably the most fun I've ever had. Besides doing this, I do enjoy doing this, but
Yeah,
it needs to be around music. Uh,
for sure.
well, a couple of more questions, real quick. Aside from Rescue Mission, have you played with or collaborated with other artists, musicians over the years?
Well, I can definitely tell you what I've been up to the last few years.
Okay.
So I really stopped playing live music. I want to say like 2018, 2019. And then we put out Life Will Out after that. Like we actually didn't do any shows after that third record came out. We were pretty much throwing in the towel. And I'm thinking back on my 20s, my 30s, and just saying, man, I've sure spent a lot of time doing this. Maybe it's time to, not cease from playing music, continue to write, continue to produce, release music on the internet, what have you. But I just reached that point where I think I'm done. It's fine to be done. And I was satisfied with that. And then COVID happened, and obviously I wasn't that impacted by that because I wasn't playing with anybody. But a lot of my, close friends around town, who are just like they've got to be, in the city, they've got to be active. It's just a huge part of their life. It was game over for guys like that,
Yeah.
when COVID first hit. And then as things started to improve a little bit, it was still kind of hard to find 4 or 5 guys that were all comfortable being in a room together, right? You might find one or two that are, or one like, dude, I've already had COVID, whatever, I don't care. Different people had a different attitude about it. Some people would, just be really uncomfortable by the idea, and none of us knew what was going on at that time. It's still really early on in that phase, and so a little bit of time went by, and you could see that clubs were starting to reopen, shows were starting to be allowed again, but it was still like a snail's pace.
Yeah.
There wasn't a
Yeah.
lot of, you could tell it was kind of a slow, um, process back to any kind of normalcy or what you would consider to be. And so a local friend of mine reached out to me, and he's kind of grieving that, man, there's still so many people that don't just aren't comfortable, this and that. And he's like, man, what would you think about just like getting together a group of guys and just like running through some Cure songs? He
Okay.
knows that I love the Cure, and I'm like, sure, have the guys over. tell me what songs you want to do. And this guy, he was a singer, and so for me, I was like, I could have fun with this, it might be fun. And it kind of hit the ground running, and we're just playing shows and this and that. That was, a good number of years ago now. We kind of took some time off from doing it, and now we're back to doing it. But now I'm on vocals and guitar now, so I'm with a group that goes under the name the English Channels, and we are the Austin tribute to The Cure.
Okay. Okay. All
Uh,
right.
yeah, we're
I did
playing.
see that on your Facebook. I
We're
didn't see.
playing January 10th at ACL Live 310. Yeah, it's been a fun little, just a little thing to kind of keep the torch lit for, the music we love, and we have a good time doing it. People seem to enjoy it, so here we
I was,
are.
I was going to say there's so many Cure fans out there. I'm sure you could draw some good audiences, when you guys play. Definitely.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
it's been it's been a journey to this point, because there've been, just like any group, lineup changes, and um you know uh periods of time where it's just difficult to commit, and you got guys that are in 4 or 5 bands, all those different complications that kind of make it difficult. But right now is actually kind of, I feel like, the kind of peak area we want to be, where it's a solid group of guys and things sound good, and people keep wanting to book us. So
You're doing something right, right?
I guess yeah, I mean, it's just I come from a time where, like, playing in a tribute band would kind of be frowned on, and that's really changed a lot in the last several years, where, like, some of the best bands in town
Yeah.
are tribute bands. I don't know if you've ever heard of Heartburn. They're Austin's Talking Heads tribute band.
Oh, are they? Okay.
And I mean,
And
it's insane how good they are.
how much does it sound like
It's
them?
mind-boggling.
Close your eyes and it's Dave
Sometimes I
Pepper.
argue that they are better than the actual Talking Heads were live.
Really? Is that
Live. I'm not
right?
as musicians or creators. I'm saying, in terms of a live band, these guys are on fire. And that's just
Wow.
one example.
They're they're definitely burning down the house, huh?
Man, and then some, and then the house next door, and then the one before that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you are ever so lucky to catch them, because they play around Texas, they go to Dallas, they get,
yeah,
they probably tour somewhat regionally because they're that good. So that's been like a big change. Like, now it's totally acceptable to
yeah,
to go and do that. And the cool thing about it is, it's not it's so selfless. It's not our music.
yeah,
It's
right.
it's just music that we're doing our best to reproduce as faithfully as
Yeah.
possible. Uh,
You-
Try to put on a good show, give people that enjoyment, and get a few people dancing and moving around the place is always nice.
That's right. When you make that connection with the audience, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we're having a lot of fun right now, actually. We just had a rehearsal on Thursday. Really sounded good. So yeah, we're just trucking forward with that. Maybe something more from Rescue Mission down the
I
down
was
the
going to ask you, that was my last question. Are there still tracks in the vaults that haven't never been released?
oh, definitely, definitely. And from more than just me, from some of the other members too. Um, so yeah, I mean, if we were ever in a situation where we were able to really nail it down and focus, um, I don't question at all that, another body of work could be put together pretty quickly. But I do think, Rescue Mission as a product, is what it was, is probably left to rest.
Yeah.
Is kind of my feeling, and I think that the other guys probably share that. But the idea of doing something else musical with Jason, with Brandon, distinctly possible, could could
Yeah.
definitely happen. In fact, I was real busy working on new material until this Cure tribute thing.
Okay.
I only have so much time to put
Right.
into,
Right.
what's now my hobbies. I
Yeah.
mean, it used to be my whole life. Now it's just
Yeah.
a hobby.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I just can't pump enough time into two things right now.
Well,
So,
well, what you need to do is clone yourself. Then you'll have time. Right.
I hear we're getting closer to that.
You're right.
I
We
don't
are.
know the current status.
Right.
I hope we're inching
That's
close.
eerie to even talk about that. Yeah. You're right. You're right. All right. Well, Chad, I want to thank you. It's been very enjoyable, and especially since we hit on a lot of cylinders with the similar music taste, uh, and just kind of hearing your story and you know blast from the past and that musical journey. It's what it's about. So
Absolutely. Well, I really
so
appreciate you too. I can tell you're, very, very invested in what you do. You're very, very passionate about it. And man, I'm mighty thankful that you found out who we were and reached out. And that's very cool. Makes my
yeah.
day. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome. I want to say keep on keeping on, and all the best to you. And let me know too if you guys just play around Austin, or do you come up to Dallas?
We have only done, since I started singing for the group, we've only done Austin, but we're actually doing a small Texas tour over spring break, but unfortunately it's the opposite direction. We're actually
Okay.
going kind of like South Padre and Corpus.
Okay. Right. Right.
But Dallas, Houston,
Yeah.
San Antonio, it's literally only a matter of time because
Yeah.
there's already talks going on about doing more stuff in other parts of the state and even out of the state if it made sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, very possible that we would do it. We're having a really good time. And I want to make the most of that, because the clock's ticking, it's not gonna last.
That's right. Get as much
Uh,
mileage as you can. You're right. You're right.
yes.
Well, I'm glad you're doing what you love too. It's you know, music once it's in you, it's got to come out. And I hear, a lot of these they were retired for so long, and then it's like, well, that itch is still there. It's it's hard to get rid of that. And
Yeah.
not let it come out in some
It
way.
is it is
Yeah.
hard to walk away from in any permanent sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You're right. There's always that buzz in the back of your head that like kind of makes you gravitate that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a good life.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again. I will get you a copy of this probably this time next week.
Awesome.
It shouldn't be much to edit at all. And then you can post it your social media, and then it'll also be on my channel. So,
Okay, very cool.
all right. All right.
Appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome. I would shake your hand, but yeah. But again, all the best to you, Chad, and say hi to the other guys if you talk to them, and also
Definitely
with
will.
your current Cure tribute band as well. All
Very cool. And happy holidays.
right.
And
Yes, happy holidays.
yeah,
Yes.
look forward to speaking again soon. Greg.
All right. Bye bye for now.
Good.